It's very common to show up in your 50s staring right at that retirement goal and yet feeling like you're not on track. What steps can you take to move from feeling off track to being on track? I've got those three, that and more coming up. Many people show up in their 50s feeling like they're not on track to retire. If you believe in any of the statistics about retirement readiness, then you'd say, yeah, that's a big problem. By the way, I don't fully believe all those statistics. I mean, we serve thousands of people, and I know that's, anecdotal, but I haven't seen a plan. I've seen a lot of people who feel off track from it when it comes to retirement, but not actually be off track. We've been able to find a plan to help them get to where they want to go. I believe the same is true for you. It's very possible, though, that, life comes at you fast. You don't make all the financial progress that you were hoping to make, and you're juggling kids and juggling job, maybe job changes and all that. And you get through a lot of life transitions, and then finally you get into your 50s, and the next big goal is retirement, and you feel like, I'm not ready, or I don't feel on track. I want you to move from that feeling to actually knowing that you are on track and having a clear plan. Now, there's no magic wand. There isn't anything that you can just, snap your fingers and there's an extra $1 million in your bank account. But there are three things that you can do to address this, I don't think I'm on track for retirement, to be able to get back on track and have the clarity and confidence. Number one, the very first thing that you need to do in your 50s, whether you're feeling off track or on track, but certainly if you're feeling off track, you've got to build out that 5-factor retirement plan. You've got to move from feeling to knowing. You've got to move from, I've got this sense, to knowing where do you stand. And that is the 5-factor retirement plan. For all of us to know whether you're on track with your specific and unique retirement goals, there are 5 variables. There's 5 factors. And the key is that these are interrelated. You make a decision in one, it's going to impact your options in the other. Those 5 factors, if you're not familiar, what age do you want to retire? What age do you want to be done? And typically you might have an ideal age, but then an acceptable age. But also within age is, what's your life expectancy? So in this first category, it's how long is retirement expected to last? Second, what's your expected retirement spending? And you don't need to have a full budget, but what's your lifestyle? And then what adjustments do you foresee, or unique expenses do you foresee in retirement? You've got to include in there health insurance or Medicare expenses. You got to see whether you have a mortgage. You've got to have taxes in there and so on. And then you'll need to apply an inflation component as well. So a lot of ingredients or a lot of components to that second variable, retirement spending. Third, what are your sources of retirement income? Of course, Social Security. How are you going to optimize that? Will you have other sources of income, a pension, maybe other property, that sort of thing? What are your sources of retirement income? Will there be an inflation adjustment on those? What's your plan and strategy there? Fourth, and this is the one that gets a disproportionate amount of attention when it comes to planning for retirement. It's important, but it's just one of 5, and that is, how much do you have saved up? Do you have $1 million saved up? How much are you saving along the way? So what is your retirement savings look like? And then the 5th component or 5th factor is, how much investment risk are you comfortable taking with those investments? I'm comfortable taking a lot of risk, so a lot of volatility, but a high long-term potential return, or no, I don't want to take a lot of risk when I get to retirement, or somewhere in between. Those are the 5 factors, and they're interrelated. And that clarity moves you from feeling that you might be on track to knowing, where do you stand? That feeling comes from, that, I wish I'd have made these changes to my finances and I'm not showing up where I thought I would. Okay, that's a feeling. Move it to be an objective. Maybe you've got the feeling that, I'm looking at, my coworkers or my peers, and they seem to be further along financially than I am. Again, that's a feeling. Move to reality. Update and build out that 5-factor retirement plan. And when you do that, you'll then stress test that, or basically your CFP will then stress test that plan to see, during really good market conditions and really poor market conditions and everything in between, how confident are you that this plan is going to work, where you're going to make it to your life expectancy without running out of dollars? You want to have that Monte Carlo, that stress test. You want to have that confidence rate right now, I would argue, above 85%. If you're below 85%, you're going to want to make some adjustments, but above 85%, then I would say, you're on track. But if you're below, then that feeling of being off track is confirmed. Yep, you do have some adjustments you need to make. And that leads us to step 2. If you confirm that from that 5-factor retirement plan, yeah, my confidence rate isn't just where it needs to be. Maybe you're in the 70s, maybe you're in your 60s, in the 60s, maybe you're even lower. And that's the confidence score, the confidence rate that you're on track to retire. Then step 2 is manage the trade-offs. Make some adjustments. Okay, and this is where you've got to get creative working with your CFP, because I think it can easily, get just emotional to say I'm not on track and I don't know what to do. We're in trouble, something like that. But instead, all right, well, what would it look like if you worked an extra year? What would it look like if you increased your savings from 10% to 15%? What would it look like if you updated your 3-bank account system or your cash flow analysis and found out, well, we actually don't need to spend as much as we were projecting? What would it look like if maybe there's that mortgage out there, a little bit of debt, if you built out an aggressive payment plan to get that debt paid off by the time you're retired? Would that then make a difference? So working on those trade-offs, those adjustments, and tinkering with those, we call them techniques, tinkering with those to see, well, what adjustments would be needed to build out a plan with those 5 factors that has a confidence rate above 85%, where you are actually on track. So you had a feeling you were off track. You built out your 5-factor retirement plan. It confirmed, yep, you're not exactly where you need to be. So step 2, you managed, the trade-offs, and you looked at what adjustments that you could make. And then step 3 is then you integrate the 6 areas of your financial life to start making some of those adjustments. It's not easy to look and say, yeah, you need to be saving more. That's not an easy adjustment. Or, yeah, you still have this mortgage and there's 20 years left on it, but you're going to be retiring in 8 years. What do you need to do? Go ahead and just pay that thing off by the time you retire. Those aren't easy adjustments. They're going to impact different areas of your financial life. For example, if you're going to increase how much you are contributing to retirement, or you're going to start paying down the mortgage more aggressively, something like that, that certainly is going to impact your present financial position, your cash flow. So looking at, well, what adjustments do you need to make within your cash flow so that you have balance, you're still living the lifestyle that you envision, that you enjoy, you're still able to do the things that you want to do, but making intentional adjustments so that you can create the margin to save more or to put extra on the debt. Again, if you're saving more, well, should that be Roth or should it be pre-tax? And looking at that retirement plan to see, well, what tax bracket do you expect to be in out there in retirement? When you turn on Social Security, what tax bracket will you be in? What does required minimum distribution look like? So it implementing the adjustments that you came up with working with your CFP in step 2, implementing them is then looking at all 6 areas of your financial life to make appropriate adjustments so that it doesn't throw your financial life out of balance. We've worked with hundreds of people who feel like, yeah, I'm just not where I need to be in order to retire. And that's the next goal. Do these 3 steps working with your certified financial planner to move from feeling to reality to action to being on track. Work with your CFP on that. If you don't have a CFP on your team, you can contact one on my team. Find us online, Korhorn.com. That's Korhorn with K. WiseMoneyShow.com. You can find us there as well. Or give us a call, 574-247-5898. All right, there you have it. Go out and take your next wise step in your financial life.